Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I am reviewing the Nike Vaporfly Next Percent 2. So the Nike Vaporfly Next Percent 2 builds upon the amazing first generation of this shoe. It's a shoe that I have worn for many marathons and done hundreds and hundreds of miles in the shoe. For me, that shoe is the best shoe I've ever worn, so improving on that particular shoe will be pretty tough, but Nike have launched the Next Percent 2 with completely redesigned upper, which is the main change as part of the shoe. So let's get straight into the video. I'm going to break down the shoe, the changes, what the pros and the cons are. The differences will feature quite heavily between version 1 and version 2 of the shoe, because that is the baseline of this particular shoe. And then I'm going to give you a summary of what I think of this shoe, where it sort of sits, and if I will be using this particular shoe going forward. So straight away, let's talk about some stats of the shoe. So this is a UK 8.5. This is my usual Nike size. I've gone true to size, and I always go true to size in my Nike shoes. This weighs in at 195 grams. So I don't know if my scales are dodgy, but both shoes together weigh exactly the same on my scale, so I can't really see a difference. Other people might have a slightly more accurate set of scales, but the ones that I do have are weighing in at 195 grams each per shoe. So there's not a weight difference between the version 1 and version 2 of the shoe. It's an 8mm offset. You got a massive stack height, and again, this is a road racing shoe. Very lightweight, very breathable, and it's a heavily cushioned slash neutral shoe. Nike have completely changed the upper. Let's just make it very clear that the midsole of this shoe is remaining unchanged. This is where all the magic happened in the shoe. It's the main contact of your foot to the ground, and this is completely unchanged. The plate, the foam, the Zoom X is not touched. So all the changes occur in the upper part of the shoe and how it actually wraps around your foot. Compared to the first generation of the shoe, the first generation had vapor weave, and it now has an engineered mesh, which is now more softer and more breathable than the vapor weave. Nike have said that it should conform better to your foot to help keep it cool throughout your workouts and your races. Also, let's just start at the back. They've added a little tab. I don't actually know what this little tab actually is. It's a slightly raised compared to the first version of the shoe. It doesn't serve any extra purpose, but that is now added. I think they've just added an extra swoosh on that side. So it's got a heel counter. It then has a mold. It then wraps around to the front of the shoe. They've actually redone the laces. So these laces are very similar to what you might see on the Alphafly. They're a little bit more grippier, a little bit more thicker compared to the first generation of the laces. In terms of how they fit and feel against your foot, you will notice a slight difference, but they tend to sort of hold a little bit better than the first version. On the tongue, they've actually included a couple of padded areas on the tongue. So where the Nike symbol is, and obviously on the side which wraps around your ankle, it's a little bit more padded. You've got a tiny bit of cushion in there compared to absolutely nothing on this particular part of the shoe. For me, it doesn't really add anything. I don't feel as if it had a lot of pressure on there. Again, that's just a welcome change for some people who might have lace pressure or trying to relieve the pressure that they get on the top of the shoe. Moving into the front of the shoe, obviously the mesh is very breathable. You can see in between, you can actually see the light going through the shoe, so it would keep you a lot more cooler throughout the race when you are racing. And if it is a wet weather race, you could have the water wicking away from the actual upper and your sock a lot more easier than the vapor weave. For me, again, I never had an issue with the vapor weave. It never sort of got heavier as the water sort of stayed into the shoe, so it wasn't too much of a problem. Moving into the toe box, you can see here on the front of the shoe, you've got a nice reinforced area on the front of the shoe. This is a slight sort of, I wouldn't say it's sort of thick, it's just a little bit thicker material, which gives it that extra sort of room in the toe box. If you compare them side by side, it just stops that collapsing of the front of the shoe, which basically should take the material away from the top of your toes and around as opposed to the angle. All it is the angle of the actual shoe in terms of joining. It's sort of got more of a higher contour and then wraps around over, compared to this one sort of starting straight away at the front and then sort of wrapping over your toes, which means that you could touch it if you did have an issue. Those are the main changes in the shoe. What's familiar in the shoe is you get the same propulsive feel of the carbon fiber plate, again of the midsole, a very wide forefoot. You get the same level of traction on both sets of the shoe, so exactly the same in terms of the bottom of the shoe. Nothing has been changed. Full length ZoomX foam, which is very light and responsive ride. Good grooves along the rubber, which help in multiple sort of surfaces and different areas. So moving on to the pros of the shoe. First and foremost is the price. So this comes in at £209.95. That is £30 cheaper than version 1. I don't know how and why Nike have done this shoe particularly cheaper. Maybe it's to tie into line with the other shoes that are on the market from their competitors and bring the pricing a little bit down. It now does mean that there is an incredible offset between the shoes. So you got version 1 coming at 240, you got this coming at 209, and then you got the Vaporfly at 260. There's quite a lot of differences in pricing and what is the premium shoe. Maybe we might see a price change of the next version of the Vaporfly, but point number one is that the price of this shoe is going to appeal to a lot more people, and it sort of does price it closer, and it's trending in the right direction in terms of having a premium race day shoe for not breaking the bank. Yes, it's £209. It's still a hell of a lot of money. I'm not going to say it's not, but it's compared to its predecessor, it's coming in a lot cheaper. Point number two is the colorway. I'm not saying that a colorway should decide whether or not you pick a shoe up or not, but it very much pops in the sun and any sort of bright conditions. What you're not going to get on these shoes is any sort of translucent material that was on the version 1 of the shoe. If you was wearing a different color pair of socks, you would get that rubbing and that natural sort of fading of the material, and then you'd get that sort of wear on the material, which would make it look a little bit worn. That's not too much of a problem. Again, on this particular part of the shoe, you do get that translucent feeling that you can actually see the color of your sock, and obviously the collapsing nature of the Vaporfly version 1 would sort of give you that it looks like a bit more beaten, a bit more battered. But on this one, so this one's got 35 miles in it, it will keep its shape. There's nothing in the front of the shoe which is keeping it. So yeah, we will keep naturally that part, and it is a bit slightly reinforced around the front of the shoe, giving you a bit more room. I personally don't actually notice too much of room in the shoe. My right foot is bigger than my left, so naturally on my left I can feel a tiny bit more extra room, but it's not huge. It's not a huge deal in terms of the difference between the two. In terms of the other pros, pro number 3 is they kept the midsole unchanged. I'm very, very glad they kept the midsole unchanged, because it was very much a winning system. The fact that they haven't changed this winning combination is pretty much a pro, and that's about it. I'm quite surprised that there's not more pros. I'm personally not a fan of this upper, which leads me straight into the cons of the shoe. Con number 1 is the upper and the lockdown. For me, it's a real letdown. I don't know if you can see this. I feel as if that the heel counter on version 2 of the shoe is a lot more wider and a lot more open in terms of the way it wraps around your foot. So version 1 has a slightly thinner contour, wraps and hugs around the back of your foot, compared to version 1. This is a lot more open, and it is incredibly annoying. I've had to lace this up 3 to 4 times pre-run just to try and find a good lockdown. I'm not too sure whether it's the way the mesh is wrapping around the foot, the combination of the laces, and obviously the openness. Another thing to add is that the foam pad, this one in this particular shoe in version 2 is about 5mm shorter on the internal part. It's nothing that anyone will ever notice, but I noticed it. It's a little bit shorter on that section there, and it's a tiny bit shorter on this. So as it wraps around your foot, it doesn't have the same feeling of the first version. You're getting a slight heel slippage, and I've also tied the runner's knot, which I've never done on the Vaporfly series. Never had to, because it was never an issue. So I've had to tie that just to try and secure a lockdown. If I didn't have the runner's knot, I just feel as if that I'm cinching down the laces so much that it's causing a little bit of pressure to build up on the top of my foot, which I don't need. So I don't know how that would feel in a long run or even a marathon. The longest I've taken this shoe on is 14.5 miles, which is long enough to feel as if that if I was to tighten it up a little bit more, just trying to secure my foot down, it would cause a problem, and I don't like it. Not at all. I do not like it. And I feel as if it's a huge disappointment that this just feels a lot more looser. It just feels so much more open. It just feels a little bit more floppy, and it just doesn't have the same structure and rigidity as the first version of the shoe. That just feels a lot more solid. It's a little bit more narrow, and it sort of even hugs. It's even got a crease on the back of the foam there, which just gives you the ability that it's going to hold your foot, and these rails are going to hold your foot in place. So hugely disappointing that this just feels just a lot more looser, a little bit more open, and lockdown is something that people are going to judge a shoe on. This is a premium racing shoe. If you cannot get a good lockdown, and I don't feel as if I need to go half a size down. I just don't feel the need to do that, because I've worn this for probably hundreds and thousands of miles. I've got 5 pairs of these shoes which just work. So if I was to go half a size down just to accommodate the shoe, there's no need for me to do that just because of the fit. So that's point number one in con number one. Con number two, the lacing. This extra pad here, it doesn't do anything. I just feel as if it doesn't add anything to the shoe. The tongue, if anything, feels just a tiny bit more annoying in terms of the way it sits on the top of your foot. I just cannot get a good fit in this shoe, and you do get a build up of pulling this material pretty tight to your foot, and then you get that sort of ruffling effect which happened on the version 1 of the shoe. The toe box and the mesh of this shoe is okay, but it is a letdown for me. There's going to be many other people who actually love this shoe, but for me, who's worn this shoe for many hundreds of miles, I just feel as if that this is a downgrade on this particular version of the shoe. I'm glad they haven't touched the midsole, because that would be even worse. I don't have a scoring system for reviews on this channel or for shoes. I haven't really done one, but if it was, then it would score quite average in terms of something out of 10. In terms of the differences between the two, obviously the midsole has remained unchanged. In terms of vapor weave against the mesh, the engineered mesh, I would every single day pick the vapor weave. This shoe, I just do not have a problem with it. I never felt as if it was too tight along my foot, or if it was just I needed a little bit more room. In the wet weather, I've run 2 marathons in the absolute pouring rain in this weather. I never felt as if that it was taking up extra weight. If anything, it kept my feet dry. So I don't believe that to be too much of an issue. And I also want my racing shoes, or my sort of workout shoes, when this has sort of gone past its racing life, I want them to feel pretty snug. I want them to feel pretty close contour to my foot. So that's the huge thing which I find about the vapor weave as opposed to engineered mesh. Yes, I have not run in the wet. We've been quite lucky here in the UK that it's been a very dry week. I just feel as if that I know it well enough already to know that this is just going to give me more problems than fix them. And I'm very much a person on this channel, as well as in real life, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Version 2 is in the middle, and as you can see, I don't know if you can tell or if I'm actually going mad, the white pair, the heel just has a slightly more narrower fitting in the way it just sits. I've not put any extra pressure on them. This is just them normal. The version 2 is just more open, the opening for your foot. And I feel as if the new mesh compared to the vapor weave, it's lost its structure around the heel and the heel counter. It's just not wrapping it as closely as the vapor weave would. And I really feel that is evident, and that is the biggest letdown of this particular shoe. And I feel as if it's going to let down a lot of you other runners out there who have picked up the version 2, comparing it to the version 1. If you've never worn the version 1 and you've got the version 2, you wouldn't know what I'm talking about. So you might think I'm actually talking rubbish, but I know it. I can feel it, and it's something which I can definitely visualize and sort of see. Even the way the creases are on the actual foam pods, I can actually see the creases on the foam pods and the way it's creased and the length of them. It's just an evident change. Another main difference between the two is the price. $240, $209. If I was to buy this shoe again, having worn both, this is going to be a little bit controversial, and obviously you shouldn't pay more for a shoe, but I'd pick this shoe. I'd pick this shoe every single time, just because of the fact that the lockdown is way more secure in this shoe. I don't care about the fact that the colorway looks good or it's something new. I just feel as if that if lockdown is the #1 thing that you need in a racing shoe or any type of shoe, if that is compromised, you're just going to be rewarded with a very much uncomfortable experience. And I don't want to have to lace it so tight that it puts me out with extensor tendonitis because I've tightened my shoes too much, or I'm basically cutting circulation off to my feet. That would not be good. In summary, it's an odd one because you still get the same great experience between both sets of shoes. Just finished a long run with some intervals with this 8x1K, and it felt great, paces were fine, but every single time I could just feel as if my heel was raised. I had my left foot with a normal knot and I had my right foot with the runner's knot, and I just couldn't find a good system. So don't get me wrong, this is a great shoe, but I just feel as if that lockdown is incredibly disappointing, and it just gives me a feeling that I'm just going to pick this up all the time. Again, it does deliver you a nice smooth ride. It's give that same feeling of the Vaporfly Next Percent. So if you've tried it, you're going to get that same feeling. I don't believe the engineered mesh gives any other different feeling, whether it's softer, whether it feels closer to your foot. It doesn't do any of that. It just feels very much the same, if not worse, compared to the first version of the shoe. So in terms of going forward, yes, I will still keep the shoe. Obviously I've got the shoe to wear and I'll wear it. Potentially I could race in it, but I know that the other shoe works for me. So in summary for the shoe, comparing version 1 against version 2 of the Vaporfly Next Percent, it's a little bit of a downgrade. I don't feel as if they've added anything superior to the shoe. So once again, thank you for watching this review of this shoe. Different, I mean, it's something surprising. I felt as if I was very surprised. I'm very excited to get this shoe, eager to try them, but as soon as I did try them, I just knew it would be a bit of a problem. But thank you for watching this review, and thank you for subscribing to the channel. We are very, very close to hitting 1,000 subscribers on the channel, so if you haven't, please make sure you hit the subscribe button down below, and make sure you hit the bell notification and give this video a thumbs up if you really like this content. You're helping the channel grow. All your support and your comments are really, really good, so leave a comment down below if you have got any problem with this shoe, if you've tried this shoe, or which one you may be getting in the future, considering that there is a price difference between version 1 and version 2. Also, do let me know if you find the lockdown is an issue for you. Let me know down below if you feel as if that you've got the same area, that the heel just feels a little bit more looser, a little bit more open around your foot, and you're having maybe the same problem as trying to get a secure fit on this particular shoe. I'll catch up with you guys real soon with a new video, and in the meantime, I hope you have a lovely Easter, because I'm filming it on Easter Sunday. So thank you for watching. Bye.